Alvarez versus Danny Jacobs. That's Saturday, May 4th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it'll stream live on DAZN, and this is for the unification of the middleweight championship title. We're here in New York City at the Hard Rock Cafe. We're here for the press conference. We have Canelo Alvarez going up against Daniel Jacobs. This is for the unified middleweight championship title of the world. With us is Eddie Goldman from No Holds Barred. Eddie, what's your take on this fight, which I think will be an extremely wonderful fight?
It could very well be. The first thing is that, as you hear mainly Canelo's fans in the background upstairs cheering and with their horns. First thing, it's kind of rare in boxing that you get two of the best in the division facing each other. Arguably, the top three middleweights are Saul Canelo Alvarez, Danny Jacobs, and Gennady Golovkin. And you could put them in any order you want, although most people would put Canelo as number one. And Danny has one of the belts, Canelo has a bunch of these other belts, and this is going to be to unify them. So it's a very important fight, and it could be a very good fight because they're both seasoned, excellent fighters. Canelo has a lot of power. He's been working better on his footwork and defense since he was younger. And Danny Jacobs is a guy who will have the reach, he's taller, longer, may want to stay on the outside, also has power, but he's also getting a little older. Some of his recent fights against guys who were good, but not at the super duper elite level, he showed maybe he's slowing down. But on the other hand, you know, sometimes fighters fight up or down to the level of competition. So when you go up against somebody that's not really elite or not the A+ level, you may not show everything that you have. So he beat a very tough Derevyanchenko. He beat Zelensky, who people didn't give much of a chance. We're going to see how he is. And Canelo has just been getting better and better. His last two fights, he's fought the best of the division, Gennady Golovkin. The first fight was scored a draw. Most people watching it thought that Golovkin deserved to win. The second fight, Canelo was given a very close victory. Again, a very close fight. Canelo did better. I didn't have a problem with that. A lot of people thought it should have been a draw, the second fight, or that Golovkin won. I didn't have a problem with Canelo winning. It could have gone either way. But the difference was in the second fight, Canelo was landing the harder shots. Golovkin landed more punches. So how do you weigh those together? It's not amateur boxing where you count the punches landed. And Canelo did more damage. But again, it was a razor-thin decision. And he is getting better with age. We're going to see how he does against Danny Jacobs. But it's an excellent matchup in a sport where people rightly are criticizing a lot of the fights that are made, mismatches and so forth. This is about as good as it gets, and you could say, well, you know, you'd want to see Golovkin in there. Golovkin got a razor-thin victory over Danny Jacobs a couple of years ago. A lot of people thought that Danny Jacobs should have won that fight.
I was one of them, or at least a draw, so hey, you know.
Yeah, it would have been tough with the knockdown to score it a draw. So you've had these three fighters fighting each other, all with razor-thin and somewhat controversial decisions. And so now the other two, Canelo Alvarez and Danny Jacobs, will face each other. And who knows what lies in the future for all of them, what's going to happen if there'll be a third Canelo fight with Golovkin or a second fight with Jacobs.
I'm also curious, though, if we find out from Canelo, when we last left him, he was fighting at 168, Rocky Fielding. And after he had won that 1-2-3 fight, he said that they weren't sure what way they would go, 168 or 160. So I'm wondering what was his...
back at 160. You got to remember the Fielding fight. He wanted to get a belt in another division. He got the least, probably the least important belt in the 168 division. He fought a guy who was not an elite fighter, and it was only like 3 months after he fought Golovkin. So instead of having to come back down, because he does put on a lot of weight between fights, instead of having to come down to 60, he went down to 68, and he dispatched him very rapidly. And he looked very good in that fight. So we'll see what Canelo does. What is he, about 28 or so years old? And a lot of middleweight fighters, as they get older, as happens to all of us, you put in a little weight. And we've seen, Roy Jones moved up in weight, all the great middleweights. Bernard Hopkins moved up in weight. Other welterweights have moved up to middleweight. The great Sugar Ray Robinson did that. So people will move up in weight. So how long will Canelo stay at middleweight? That remains to be seen. But on May the 4th, with all these fans cheering for him with their air horns and everything, this fight will be at middleweight, 160-pound weight limit.
So thank you, Eddie Goldman from No Holds Barred. Love ya.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm Kristal Hart reporting from New York City. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.